seriously. The United States is the single biggest source of military aid to Ukraine. And President Volodymyr Zelensky has emphasized his country's gratitude to the United States for its support during the war against Russia. This comes following accusations of ingratitude leveled against Zelensky during a heated exchange with Donald Trump in the White House. We have more in this report.
Despite numerous instances of Mr. Zelensky showing gratitude towards the U.S., he has been forced to reiterate his thanks after the infamous encounter which saw Mr. Trump and his Vice President J.D. Vance in a tense exchange of words with the Ukrainian president on live TV.
Звісно, ми усвідомлюємо важливість Америки, і ми вдячні за всю підтримку, яку ми отримали від Сполучених Штатів Америки. Не було такого дня, що ми не відчували цієї вдячності, бо це вдячність за збереження нашої незалежності. Наша стійкість в Україні, вона базується на тому, що роблять заради нас і заради...
Zelensky also commended European leaders for staying mostly united despite challenges. Europe is strong when it is united, and united we are stronger against aggression and tyranny, he said. This praise was more than a diplomatic nicety. It was also a challenge to action to continue to stand with Ukraine as the war stretches on and domestic pressures build. Ukraine's president recognized that European nations have been doing their part while sacrificing things themselves, from elevated energy prices to economic dislocation, all outgrowths of their commitment to backing Ukraine. But he urged them to see their sacrifices as essential investment in the long-term peace and stability of the continent. Mr. Zelensky says the US will definitely be involved in diplomacy, which brings about peace in the region, as he hailed the togetherness of Ukraine and Europe. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer on Sunday said Europe is at crossroads in history as he announced a coalition of the willing allies of Ukraine, including Britain and France, for a peace plan.
Let's bring in global affairs analyst Ibitolakwa Ajayi for more on this development. So Ajayi, thanks for joining us on the news this hour. Perhaps the biggest fallout we're seeing from that disastrous Oval Office meeting last week is America indeed pausing all military aid for Ukraine. In Russia, the expectation is that this will really push the Kiev regime to a peace process. What would you say the choices are right now for Ukraine losing its biggest source of military aid in this war?
Well, thank you for having me, firstly. It's good to be back on the show. I think the situation now is such that cooler and calmer minds and cooler heads will have to prevail, because Ukraine is in a difficult situation. And, you know, even though the European leaders have assured that they will back him to continue to maintain his position, they cannot do it by themselves. They also need the U.S. military support to be able to give Ukraine any type of protection that they're looking for from any ceasefire deal. So at this point in time, I think President Zelensky is doing the right thing by being grateful to the United States with his statement. But as it stands right now, President Trump is looking more for a direct apology from him based on the events that transpired on Friday. So we'll wait to see if that happens. But at this point in time, they have to find a way to all come back to the negotiating table to strike a deal that will work for all.
Do you really
right
think
now Russia is the beneficiary?
Do you really think that an apology will be enough? Because we've heard Zelensky now say thank you to America a countless number of times. Records also have shown this actually said that more than 30 times publicly prior to that meeting. It doesn't look like gratitude will be enough to get America's support. It seems we've had President Trump talk about a strategy of ending the war long before now. Stop aid to Ukraine and it will end the war, right?
I'm sorry, I didn't quite get your question, Pete. Will you mind repeating it?
Well, I'm saying that prior to this meeting in the Oval Office, President Trump has been quite vocal about a strategy, stop aid to Ukraine, and that possibly will end the war. Plus the fact that Zelensky has said thank you a couple of times now, is also really thanked America publicly in records over 30 times prior to that meeting.
Right, and that's very true. I mean, he has not stopped thanking the United States, even when we had former President Biden in office. You know, he's always expressed gratitude. So, but I think more to how President Trump operates, he likes to be seen as somebody, you know, that's in charge. He's always expressed his desire to see this war end, but he wants the war to end on his own terms. You know, something that will give the United States access to minerals in Ukraine, and at the same time will probably lead to Russia being able to hold on to the territories that they have already occupied in Ukrainian territory. So for President Trump, he feels that the resolution will come by having Zelensky accede to his own terms of negotiating this peace, which is a little bit tough for Zelensky to really stomach. So I think that's why we have the logjam. The issue is not really about apologies or being grateful. That's never really been the issue. But the issue is President Trump wanting Zelensky to accept the terms for this peace deal, which, you know, in everybody's mind is very clear, will favor Russia than it will favor Ukraine.
Europe now appears united, rallying around Ukraine after that Oval Office meeting. But do you think their support will be enough? It seems the most sustainable support remains striking a peace deal.
So can you say that again? I'm having trouble hearing you. Your voice is not coming across clearly.
Well, I'm asking if you think Ukraine's support is enough for Ukraine. Some would say the most sustainable solution right now is actually striking a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine.
No doubt. But then, you know, Putin's maximalist approach has always been to push back on any solution that will have him give up any territory he has already occupied, because he wants to also see Putin, you know, probably, if you like the word puppet, be installed as president of Ukraine, somebody that will be sympathetic to Russian ideas and Russia in general. Because his own goal, the way I say it, is to find a way to reconstruct the former Soviet Union, you know, and it will not stop at that. Although you will have people that will say that the reason why he's doing this is because, you know, NATO is encroaching on his doorsteps, which, you know, is understandable, but we should not forget that Russia is the aggressor in this whole conflict. And if anything, there should be some concession on their part to understanding why Ukraine would not want Russia to hold on to any territory within their country. So any peace deal that has to happen, really, in my opinion, will have to include some concession from Russia. Now, that's going to be one that will be very, very difficult to figure out how he will accede to anything, unless President Trump is willing to make that demand. I don't see that happening from the side of the European countries. I don't think they can make that. And if they do, I don't think he will.
Ukraine is big on security guarantees, and we heard a lot of that during the London summit, emphasizing the importance of strong security guarantees for Ukraine. What are your thoughts on the likelihood of a ceasefire, and how can these guarantees be ensured?
We've had several ceasefires in the past, and Zelensky is right in asking for a security guarantee because he is confident that if they achieve another ceasefire, it's very likely that Putin will break it. And the challenge that is there is that none of those guarantees can be made or secured by the European leaders without the help of the United States, because they simply don't have some of the military equipment or technology that they will need to secure that. So that's why they can't just say they're going it alone. They have to find a way to bring the United States to the table, because the U.S. support, the air signal system, is something that they will need to ensure that it serves as a deterrent to any incursions by Russia once they reach a ceasefire. So it's not going to be an easy situation unless they're able to find and bring the United States back to the table and get their support.
As of last year, Ukraine's peace terms are that Russia withdraw its troops, that its leaders be prosecuted for war crimes, and also that Ukraine have security guarantees and what have you. I'm wondering what you think is feasible now, you know, in actually bringing this war to end. vis-a-vis the new position that America has taken?
It's not going to be easy. Ending this war, the easiest option in my mind is for Russia to withdraw from Ukraine, but that's not going to happen. So at this point, Ukraine has to weigh the cost of having lost so many people in this war, whether they are willing to accede to some of what President Trump is asking. So it's a tough pill to swallow for Ukraine, but I think the only way this will happen is to find something they can yield to Russia that will not jeopardize their sovereignty. And how they negotiate that is really going to be a skillful job on the part of everyone involved. But it's not going to be an easy peace deal to negotiate any of the parties involved.
Very interesting days ahead. Questions around the future of the Ukraine-U.S. relations and whether or not U.S. will continue to be a strong ally. But it's a good place to leave it. Ibidolakwa Ajayi, Global Affairs Analyst, thank you for talking to us.
Thank you for having me.
To all the matters now, United Nations has seeking global interest in water sanitation for health safety at the organization session of the 2026 UN Water